All right, let's talk about building with AI. Now, you probably know the big famous names, right? But there's this whole other universe out there that is absolutely exploding right now. And that's the world of open models. If you're a developer or just curious about where AI is headed, this is something you really need to understand.
So you're ready to build something amazing with generative AI. That's awesome. But right at the very beginning, you hit a fork in the road. You've got a fundamental choice to make. And honestly, this one decision is going to shape your entire project. And that choice really comes down to two very different philosophies. On one hand, you've got proprietary models, those big, polished systems that are controlled by a single company. On the other hand, you've got open models, a world that's all about community, access, and collaboration. So what does this actually mean for you, the builder?
To really get into that, we've got to be on the same page with our terms. The word open gets tossed around a lot in the AI space, so let's break down what it actually means when we say open models.
Okay, so if you come from a traditional software world, open source is a pretty strict definition. For an AI model to be truly open source, it has to have the whole package. We're talking total transparency, the data it was trained on, all its internal weights, the code to evaluate it, the works. Everything's got to be out there for everyone to see.
But here's the thing, that level of openness is super rare. It's incredibly hard to check all those boxes. A great example of one that actually does it is Allen AI's Almo, but really, it's the exception that proves the rule.
And that's exactly why the community has kind of settled on a more practical term, open models. Think of it as a broader category. These are models that give you the stuff you as a developer really care about, like accessible weights to build with and a license that lets you actually use it, even if every single training detail isn't shared. This is the term you're going to hear and use most of the time.
All right, so we know what they are, but the real question is, why should you care? Why would you actually choose an open model for your next project? Well, it really boils down to four massive advantages. First up, full customization. This is huge because you can get your hands on the model's inner workings, its weights. You can fine-tune it. You can basically become its teacher, training it to be an expert in whatever you need. Maybe that's understanding complex legal documents, or writing code in a specific language, or even just talking with your company's unique voice. You get to shape it. Number two, and this is a biggie for pretty much everyone, cost. On average, open models are just plain cheaper to run. But it's more than that. They come in all sorts of sizes, which gives you incredible flexibility. You can host them super efficiently in the cloud, or even find models small enough to run right on your own machine. That gives you a level of control over your budget that's hard to beat.
Third is total flexibility. You're not locked into one giant, one-size-fits-all model. Instead, you can build what's called a multi-model architecture. Think of it like having a specialized toolkit. You can grab a small model that's amazing at summarizing, another one that's a genius at generating code, and a third one for translation. You get to pick the absolute best tool for every single job. And finally, the fourth advantage is perfectly captured by this quote: innovation in numbers. This gets to the very soul of the open model ecosystem. It's the community. When you have thousands of brilliant developers all over the world experimenting, improving, and sharing their work, the pace of innovation is just breathtaking. You're not just using a tool, you're tapping into a global movement.
Okay, so let's say you're on board. The why makes total sense. The next logical question is, where? Where do you actually go to find these models and start building with them? A fantastic place to start is a good model catalog. Think of it like an app store, but for AI. The catalog in Azure AI Studio, for example, is a great one-stop shop where you can browse, test out, and deploy a massive variety of different models. And when I say massive, I'm not kidding. We're talking over 1,600 models in there right now, and that number is growing all the time. It's got collections from the big names like Meta and Mistral, and of course, it plugs right into the huge library from Hugging Face. So with that many options, it can feel a little overwhelming, right? So let's just narrow it down and meet some of the key players. These are the influential names you're going to see again and again in the open model space. First up, you've got Meta with their Llama 3 models. They come in different sizes, from a really nimble 8 billion parameter version that's perfect for things like chat, all the way up to a 70 billion parameter powerhouse that performs right up there with the big proprietary models. And a nice bonus, they're both really fast at generating images. Next, there's Mistral. They do something really clever with their models called a mixture of experts architecture. The simple way to think about it is, instead of one giant brain, they have a team of specialists. For any problem, the model picks the best 2 experts for the job. This makes their models incredibly fast and efficient. Plus, their newest models have native function calling built right in, which is a total game changer for building complex apps. And then there's Hugging Face. So if you thought 1,600 models was a lot, brace yourself. The Hugging Face Hub is home to over 600,000 models. It's just mind-boggling. It is, without a doubt, the center of the open model universe.
Honestly, the best way to think about the Hugging Face ecosystem is like a giant infinite box of AI Legos. You have access to countless little specialized pieces. You can grab a model that's an expert in a specific language, snap it together with another one that's a master of transcription, and piece by piece you can build a highly performant, super cost-effective application that's perfectly suited for your needs.
And that really brings us to the core idea, the main takeaway from all of this. It's this quote: "The most powerful model isn't the biggest, it's the one you make your own." And that's the whole philosophy, right? Power in this new world isn't just about size. It's about customization, it's about flexibility, and it's about community. It's about taking these incredible building blocks and creating something that is uniquely, perfectly yours. So the only question left is, what are you going to build?